Hi everybody, I'm Ryan. Today we're going to talk about red-black sack in Pioneer, which has kind of newly been discovered is the wrong word. It's newly been discovered as one of the most winning decks in Pioneer, especially across all of the regional championships. And I think people are realizing how powerful this deck is as it's fallen off the map. And yes, it has bad matchups and good matchups, but the point of this video is to talk about the overall strategy of the deck, the card choices of the deck, any combos in the deck, and kind of how to play the deck. Let's do it. So this is my red-black sack deck. The lands there aren't much to look at. There's a lot of different ways to build the mana base. The thing about the mana base, in my opinion, is that a lot of the cards that you care about, you are going to cast in the first 3 turns. We have no 4-mana spells in our entire deck besides Gigantha. And so it makes Black Cleave Cliffs very, very good. It makes our man lands pretty good. You know, there's some mana bases that only play 2 Black Cleave Cliffs. I think that's wrong. You know, it's understandable because later in the game you might be wanting to like double spell or whatever. But this is a synergy deck. I'm not going to call this a combo deck. There is a few like kind of neat combos. None are just kill you combos most of the time. But this is a synergy deck. The deck synergizes around using Witch's Oven and Deadly Dispute to sacrifice things and benefit from that sacrifice. So I'm going to rework what the deck looks like really, really quick because there's a couple different categories of this deck. The first 2 categories are kind of the boring categories, and then we'll talk about some of these other ones. The first category is interaction. So we're running 4 Fatal Push and 4 Thoughtseize. Some versions run 3 Fatal Push, which I think is totally fine because it's not really moving forward with the strategy of the deck. But I think it's important for interaction. Important note, because you're sacrificing things, often you can at instant speed, you can turn on the Revolt of Fatal Push very, very easily. And Thoughtseize is just an amazing card. You punish your opponent mulliganing. Whoops, I didn't have the right screen on. There you go. Ignore the beginning of that video. You can punish your opponent mulliganing. You can, be very good at stopping important cards in your opponent's hand. Like I think I need to explain why Thoughtseize is insane. And the one of Crux is actually pretty neat. You're sacrificing a lot of cards. You fill up your graveyard pretty quick, so you can escape it pretty easily. The thing is, Crux itself does not work towards the game plan of the deck very well. There's some cool combos you can do where, with the Crux, if you have a lot of mana, with the Crux escape trigger on the stack, you can Deadly Dispute it and sacrifice it to get a lot of benefit out of Crux since it's going to die anyway, or Witch's Oven it and get 2 foods, which is kind of neat. But Crux I would clarify as like an interaction, maybe even win condition. This second category is just good stuff. They both sort of work towards the overall strategy of the deck, but we're playing them because they're just good cards. Bloodscythe Harvester is an amazing 2-drop. It's undercosted. It creates a blood token, which is an artifact that you sacrifice, use the sacrifice keyword so it turns on Mayhem Devil, and that you can sacrifice to Deadly Dispute, and you can sacrifice Bloodscythe Harvester itself to both trigger Mayhem Devil and kill things, which is it's just super, super good. And Fable the Mirror Breaker, if you're playing a slower focused red deck, even as long as it's not all in aggro red deck in this format, you need to be playing for Fable the Mirror Breaker. Fable the Mirror Breaker is an amazing Magic the Gathering card. It also creates multiple bodies, which you can sacrifice. It creates a treasure you can sacrifice and advance your mana. And you can filter out your hand because if you notice, like each individual card power level wise, besides Fable and Thoughtseize and Fatal Push maybe, are very low. Like each individual card's power is very low, but it synergizes so well that the deck is just amazing. So let's talk about the synergistic cards. So our sacrifice outlets are Deadly Dispute and Witch's Oven. Let's talk about Deadly Dispute first. Deadly Dispute is 2 mana instants. As an additional cost to cast a spell, sacrifice an artifact or creature, and you can draw 2 cards and create a treasure token. So it replaced itself a little bit with mana. We can draw 2 cards, create a treasure token. This is amazing with cards we can bring back like Cauldron Familiar. This is amazing with cards that let us essentially draw 2 more cards like Unlucky Witness, which we'll get to in a little bit. It's amazing with a creature we took from our opponent with Claim the Firstborn because then it just dies. It's amazing with the blood token made with Bloodscythe Harvester, the treasure token made with Fable, the treasure token made with other Deadly Disputes, redundant Witch's Oven. Sometimes you sacrifice. It's not amazing though. Or like I said, like with the escape trigger on the stack with Croxa, we can benefit a lot from just drawing more cards, which fills up our hand, which fuels the combo even more. Sorry, I was getting out of hand. The other sacrifice part is Witch's Oven. So Witch's Oven is a lot less flashy than Deadly Dispute because you tap it, sacrifice a creature, create a food token. Sacrifice creature's toughness is 4 or greater, create 2 food tokens instead. This is a lot less flashy. The thing about it is it lets us sacrifice anything. Lets us gain food, right, which puts artifacts, which means more Deadly Dispute. Lets us get food on the battlefield to bring back with Cauldron Familiar, which is a combo we're going to get to in just a second. We can sacrifice Crux to get 2 foods. If our opponent, especially in the mirror match, if they claim the Firstborn us or something like that, we can sacrifice it in response and have it not die. That new Archfiend of the Dross deck, when they put the enchantment on your creature, you can sacrifice it so that you don't die. Sometimes it's just solid. And the combos with the deck alongside Witch's Oven is Witch's Oven, Claim the Firstborn is really obvious. The same combo with Deadly Dispute, where you take your opponent's creature, attack with your opponent's creature, then sacrifice your opponent's creature to Witch's Oven or Deadly Dispute. Unlucky Witness, you sacrifice Unlucky Witness to Witch's Oven, exile the top 2 cards of your library until your next end step. You may play one of those cards, so essentially like drawing 2 cards. And the like very famous combo of the deck is the Cat Oven. So you sacrifice Cauldron Familiar, you get a food, you sacrifice that food, return Cauldron Familiar to the battlefield, each opponent loses 1 life, you gain 1 life, and the next turn you can do the same. On top of all of this, if we have a Mayhem Devil on the battlefield, I'm going to talk about Mayhem Devil now. Mayhem Devil says, is a 3/3 for 3, where whenever a player sacrifices a permanent, Mayhem Devil deals 1 damage to any target. So this counts with Crux dying. This counts with the treasure from Fable and Mirror Breaker dying, and also the tokens from Affliction dying, because it says sacrifice, not exile. This counts with the blood token from Blood Tithe Harvester being used. This counts with Blood Tithe Harvester being sacrificed. This counts with the Witch's Oven sacrifice. This counts with Deadly Dispute sacrifice. This counts with the food being sacrificed as Cauldron Familiar comes back. All of these things happen. You get to ping something. You get to just ping something. And we have so many things in our deck that are being sacrificed for other value that when we have Mayhem Devil on the battlefield, you can just take control of the game. Especially Mayhem, the golden combo in this deck is Mayhem Devil, Witch's Oven, Cauldron Familiar. Because every single turn, Witch's Oven, sacrifice Cauldron Familiar, ping something. Sacrifice the food, bring back Cauldron Familiar, ping something. It is incredibly good. And that in conjunction with all these other sacrifices, all these other really, really good things, you can just take control of the board super, super fast. And I feel like I've talked about these other cards quite a bit. Claim the Firstborn, being able to take your opponent's creatures, then sacrifice them is very good. It's a removal spell and deals a lot of damage. And with Unlucky Witness and Cauldron Familiar, Unlucky Witness allows us to draw some cards, and Cauldron Familiar allows us to have this like benefit from the food besides just making a food and having an artifact, and we get to keep bringing stuff back. Some kind of thoughts with this deck, at least the main deck, is it's really important every single turn, especially if you have access to Mayhem Devil, you might have lethal. You can deal a ridiculous amount of damage. There's a lot of sacrifices that are not necessarily beneficial in the mid-range mindset or the mid-range situation that you would do because you have lethal for Mayhem Devil. Also understand, like, count up the damage you have at Mayhem Devil, and maybe you can kill your opponent's creatures with it. Also understand this has happened at instant speed, which is just so good. I won't be able to go through every single situation in this video. Obviously, you'll need to play the deck, but understand Mayhem Devil adds a lot of math to the battlefield. It is important to think really deeply about how many possible triggers we can get out of Mayhem Devil every single turn. Do I have lethal? No. Is it beneficial to kill my opponent's creatures? Maybe, and really process that. Also, I don't remember if I mentioned, but the treasure tokens count as sacrifice, which is just disgusting. I think that's mostly, a good talk about our main deck. I think it makes a lot of sense. You really got to play it a bunch to understand the combos. It's really important you play slow with this deck. With these synergistic pseudo combo, pseudo just synergy decks, because every card has synergies with every other card pretty much. It makes the turns really, really complex to play perfectly. And it's important to keep that in mind when you pick up this deck. My first 20 matches with this deck, I felt like I was doing the right thing and losing quite a bit until I really got the hang of it. As far as sideboard goes, Duress makes sense. Duress is for these non-creature spells that we are worried about, and Control and Lotus and other combo decks and stuff like that. Rending Volley for mono white humans is really good against spirits and really good against Greasefang. Furnace Rains is awesome against mono green type strategies. Polygon's Command is for mid range, also decent against Greasefang. Obnixilis is very good, against these slower decks that you don't think you can set up the combo very easily against. Damping Spear, great against Lotus and against these Nykthos decks. And Unlicensed Hurts for graveyard decks like Greasefang. And actually, it's fine against Lotus too. But there you have it, the overview of Red, Black, Sack, and Pioneer. If you like this video, please be sure to like and subscribe. Check me out on social media. Links are above me and in the description. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.